Welcome everybody to the Friar Talk YouTube channel and podcast. Today we are doing a live stream with Ryan Cohen. Going to be going over, this whole trade deadline. I know a lot of Padres fans are pretty upset right now, but I feel like the team got better. There's definitely a move that our last video we discussed. Wasn't a big fan of the Jake Marinzik trade, but everyone kind of seems to forgot that we traded for an all-star earlier in the week. But Ryan, what are just your overall thoughts on this deadline and what the Padres got?
Yeah, I'll start with Frazier because I think that's important. In the last 2 days, it became very clearly a heavy seller's market. We saw a lot of pitchers get traded for high-end prospects that maybe didn't deserve the return that they got, but because it was a seller's market, there was an overpay. The Blue Jays come to mind, giving up their two top guys for Barrios. AJ went out and got an all-star level bat a week early. And I think if you wait that week and try and trade for Frazier yesterday or Thursday, you're probably giving up more than Marcano and a couple guys that I've never really heard of, And I'm not to say that's not to knock those three prospects by any means, but I think you end up paying more for Frazier if you wait. So I'm happy. I'm really happy about Frazier. And I think we kind of we settled on that one. Like we got, it happened, and we want more, we want more, we want more. But if you had told me we'd gotten Frazier, Marisnik, and a really good reliever in Daniel Hudson a week ago, I'd be like, it's a pretty good deadline. I would have been a little bit confused about why there was no starting pitcher. I think that's the biggest confusion, is why you didn't get a starting pitcher when it's pretty clear that starting pitching is lacking right now. But overall, I'm happy with it. That's said now, 48 hours after the Scherzer debacle, because that was just crushing. And I think if you had taken the bigger view a week ago, it'd be a pretty good deadline. But because of that hope and joy of that hour where it seemed like we got Max Scherzer only for him to go to the Dodgers, that's what makes it crushing.
Yeah, yep. That was definitely really crushing. Wasn't it pretty cool for those couple hours that we thought we had Max Scherzer? I thought that was a really good moment as a Padres fan, but it was really tough seeing Max Scherzer go to the Dodgers. Not only to add insult to injury, you're going to have Trey Turner play second base alongside Corey Seager most likely, and that's what's going to hurt even more because Trey Turner is one of the fastest players in the league, if not the fastest. Also, batting over 300 last time I checked. Really good ball player. Do I think we can still beat them? 100%. I think this team is set up for success no matter what, no matter who we didn't or did acquire. Looking at that Frazier trade, I don't know what he's batting right now. I stopped watching the game after just pure frustration and heartbreak for the last 48 hours. Kept up with the score, saw Manny hit 2 bombs. That was awesome. But I don't know what Frazier's batting right now. When he came to us, batting 327. I was there for his first game. Got 2 base hits, if I remember correctly. Fernando went deep while he was on base. And it was really refreshing to see, cool, we got this kind of bat. He's going to be in our lineup, guy that bats over 300, gets on base at a really high clip. And I still think, that's what we're going to expect from the guy the whole time. He's going to be a really good acquisition for us. Ryan brought up that it was a heavy seller's market. AJ Preller even said, even though I felt like it was going to be a buyer's market, he felt like it was going to be a seller's market. And he was absolutely right. Giving up 2 top 5 prospects for Barrios is just absurd, considering the guy has over a 3 ERA in his career. And, that's basically what the Dodgers gave up to get Scherzer. You also look at other deals. Kimbrel goes for a lot, Nick Madrigal. And then, unfortunately, we got Jake Marisnik for the price that cost, for the same price as Chris Bryant. But overall, I'm not going to blame AJ for it. Other than that last deal, I felt like he was pretty aggressive at the deadline, just didn't go his way, which is unfortunate, but is what it is.
Yeah, one thing I noticed is a lot of Padres fans acted like AJ was just sitting on his couch during the deadline, but it was pretty clear that he was going out there and trying to make moves. Obviously, he said that they weren't as close to the Scherzer deal as I think it was reported beforehand, which was interesting to hear because it did seem like Ken Rosenthal at least thought that was it seemed like it was pretty close. And he said that they were never at that stage. Also got a couple people in here asking about a Tatis update. If you guys listened to Jay Stingler's comments last night, it seems like it's going to be a similar IL stint as last time around. Didn't say anything about him going to get the surgery. I wouldn't expect that he would do that. Definitely a bummer. I mean, especially I'm going to the game today, and it's the game before bobblehead night. So definitely a little bit frustrating that Tatis is down. But the good thing is it looks like he's going to be back pretty shortly. And like you guys are saying, this team definitely still has a chance. I noticed yesterday when we posted our video talking about the Hudson and Merzenich trade that a lot of people felt like, oh, like this team isn't, they don't have a shot to win it this year. They got better. They added an all-star. Yes, the Giants added KB. KB's hit like under 200 for the last 2 months. So KB's been struggling a ton lately. Trey Turner, I think the one that hurts the most has got to be Trey Turner, because not only is Trey Turner a great player, but Trey Turner is a Padre killer. It really feels like every time he shows up at Petco, he hits a bomb or two in that series. So that's the one I think that was the most frustrating. And also it was just kind of like random, like, oh, we're going to get Scherzer. Here it goes. And then we don't get Scherzer, but the Dodgers also get Trey Turner. So that one hurt. But Hudson, he's rounding out what I think is the best bullpen in the league. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think the Padres now have the best bullpen in the league? Because I think that's the biggest strength, to go with some superstars in the lineup, of course. But the lineup looks a lot more complete after this deadline. And I think, yes, they're lacking starters, but I think they have the best pen in the game. So, Ryan, are you with me on that? Do you think they have the best bullpen in the game right now?
I watch a lot of baseball, but off the top of my head, I mean, I don't know every single guy in every single bullpen. I know the White Sox have assembled like a gnarly bullpen with Kimbrel and Hendricks in the back end. Astros made a bunch of trades. They have a good bullpen. I'd have to think about it more, and like kind of go over each team. But I think the point is that they've built a really good bullpen. And that doesn't account for Lamet, who's probably going to come back and pitch in the bullpen at some point. And Strom is coming back. And if Strom is that lefty from 2019, I mean, that's a really big deadline addition, basically, that you throw in there. So Melanson's having a great year. Obviously, I know he's not like necessarily a lockdown, shutdown closer, but he's having a great year. He keeps getting guys out other than a few bonus saves. Daniel Hudson's having a great year. Pagan's a little sketchy, but Adams and Hill get their outs, even if they're a little sketchy at times. And then you go into the deeper end, you have Stammen, who's having a ridiculous year. I mean, guys got a sub-3, Craig Stammen. I totally didn't see that coming. And then hopefully what it'll mean, and this is no knock on Nabil Chrismat and Nick Ramirez, like those guys have stepped up clutch for the Padres all year long. But hopefully instead of using guys like that in extra innings or when you're down by 3, you only have to use them if you're down 8 or they're in the minor leagues, because Strom is back. Lamet might start pitching out of the pen a little bit more. Hudson can go multiple innings. You can work a little bit better than they've been able to in the last few months.
Yeah, not only did we acquire Hudson, somebody asked Bob Scanlon if what role Dinelson Lamet would be playing down the line. He did confirm that he will be in a short reliever role, so we'll probably see him go 1 or 2 innings, and that's going to be huge for the bullpen. We talked about how we might have the best bullpen in baseball. That's definitely not out of the question. I saw somebody bring up Chicago. I think you brought up Chicago too, Ryan, how they just got Kimbrel and they already had Hendricks and I mean, it's not out of the question that we're the best bullpen in baseball right now. We're gonna get back Matt Strom too. Matt Strom is like really good in El Paso. Dinelson Lamet, obviously, unfortunately, he's going through some injury troubles, but being able to preserve his arm now in order so he can possibly throw more innings in the future, whether it be in close September games or close October games possibly. It's going to be huge for the bullpen. Obviously, Tim Hill's my guy. I think he's been absolutely amazing this year. I brought up how if you're going to blame like the bullpen, you shouldn't go after guys in the bullpen, because it's the starters that really aren't cutting it right now. It's the starters' fault that the bullpen has to throw so many. It's the reason we got to see guys like Nick Ramirez, Nabil Chrismat go out there and allow a couple runs, because guys like Blake Snell, Chris Paddock aren't going out there and providing the innings that we thought they could. But this bullpen, no question to me, is easily top 3, maybe the best. Getting a guy like Hudson was huge at the deadline. Don't feel like we give up that much. Thompson was going to be a good piece down the road, but in terms of what's going to help us now, Hudson was the guy that we needed. But I mean, love to see that the bullpen's getting stronger, especially seeing the struggles of the starters. We never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I think some people are also talking about Yu Darvish, and obviously he's going to be starting tonight. I'm a little bit concerned about you, Darvish. Not that he can't get it together. He absolutely can. But you're talking about a guy that's very dependent on the movement of his pitches. And when you ban not just some of the sticky stuff, but rosin and sunscreen as a mix was banned. Like, that's something that he's been using his whole life. And he's not a guy that's going up there and throwing 98 plus. He's a dude that has 14 pitches and relies heavily on his off-speed stuff. So it's going to take a time for him to adjust. I expect that he will be able to adjust. We've definitely mentioned it many times before, but he's been struggling since it was May 29th. He has over a 5 ERA. So Darvish has been struggling quite a bit, but I would expect him to, find himself by the playoffs. And I don't know. I think that some people are a little bit like overemphasizing how bad the starting pitching is. Has Blake Snell struggled a lot? Yes. Has Chris Paddock been incredibly inconsistent? Yes. But come playoff time, it's going to be mostly Darvish and Musgrove. Like, those are going to be the 1 and 2. You're banking on one of these guys to be good. Like Snell, and I saw there was a quote from basically like some executive around the league, and they said Blake Snell is going to be the deciding factor of the Padres season. Now, that's a little scary right now in the end of July, but he's a guy that has been really good. So I definitely think that I don't know. I'm a little bit concerned about the starters, but it could be something where we see them get it together. And we just saw Musgrove, who had been struggling, go out and throw 7 really good shutout innings. So that's one guy that's showing that he's doing really well. Weathers last night obviously struggled a lot, but that was the first time he had really got rocked like that. He had a couple outings where he allowed like 3, 4, 5 runs, but that was the first time where he got legitimately rocked. He's been very consistent throughout the season, though. So, you got a guy like Weathers who maybe he struggles to go past 5. Usually it's around 4 to 6 innings for him, but he usually gives you a very good 4 or 5 innings. So I've been really happy with him. Musgrove has been phenomenal this season. Darvish, yes, he struggled, but throughout the year he's been really good. And then you're really banking on Blake Snell and Chris Paddock. So my next question for you, Ryan, is where do you see these guys coming around? Like, how do you think they're going to perform, in the second half of the year? And how confident are you in Blake Snell and Chris Paddock come playoff time?
So for the first question, I'm a Blake Snell believer. I mean, the stuff is still there. To me, it's something mental. I mean, I don't know that to be true, and I certainly don't want to put any excuses out there, but it feels like it's something mental because the slider's still breaking, the curveball still gets over, and the fastball is just missing. That's a sweet Padres shirt there. My goodness. If Blake Snell becomes even a 3.5 ERA guy over the next 2 months, that's a deadline addition, because that is significantly better than he's been. And I know Blake Snell can be a 3.5 guy because he's been that several times in his career and better. So if he can turn it on, I think that'll be huge. And then for your playoff question, playoffs are often won with the bullpen. And it's often won with a starter who goes to the bullpen. If you look at who's been so clutch over the last few World Series, 2020's World Series doesn't count, but it was Julio Urias. 2019, Patrick Corbin went to the pen. 2018, Chris Sale got the last out of the 2018 World Series. 2017, Charlie Morton got the last out. He's a starting pitcher. 2016, John Lester came out of the pen in Game 7. 2015, I can keep going back and back and back. Starting pitchers who become relievers in the playoff time end up being critical. And I still think now there's a long way to go, and you got to win the wild card game if you're in it. You got to get to the wild card game first, and you got to try and win the division. But if you're in a 5-game or 7-game playoff series, Blake Snell out of the pen, if that's where he needs to be for 2 to 3 to 4 innings, could be huge. And once you're there, once you're in the dance, anything can happen. And obviously want to avoid the wild card game because you don't want a 162-game season coming down to one fickle game. I mean, the Rockies can beat the Padres on a given night. I think everyone agrees the Padres are better than the Rockies. And it's one game. But if you can get through that into the series, I like where we're at.
Yeah, sorry guys. Obviously, you can see we're all in this family really big Padre fans. That was my dad. But yeah, I'm definitely a Snell believer too. I brought it up before, and like you said, Ryan, he still has the stuff. Most definitely, it's just I think he's kind of just mentally not there. We saw Chris Paddock earlier in the season have some mental struggles, and it's not like he's been amazing ever since then, but he's been a lot better ever since he came off the IL. obviously Blake Snell already had an IL stint. It was just a really, really bad start recently, but we can only hope that he gets better because he's going to be one of the vital points to us making the playoffs and potentially winning this division. Now, just because the Giants added Chris Bryant and the Dodgers got Max Scherzer and Trey Turner, let's not act like this division is like out of reach. It's like 5 games. Oh, well, this team is still really deep. This team can still win this division. I'm fully confident in them. It's just going to all ride on the starting pitching. Joe Musgrove is gonna, he's gonna be a little more consistent, more down the line. I brought it up that whenever he's kind of not in his element, he's kind of not that good of a pitcher. But when he's in his element, he's so good. He's such a dominant pitcher. Yu Darvish needs to come back around. Blake Snell needs to be a little better for sure. Not even a little better. He needs to just flat out be better, start providing consistent 5-6 innings for this team because it's going to be vital down the road, especially for the bullpen who's already been so taxed throughout the season. But obviously, I think every Padre fan knows our season is going to depend on these starters. Fernando did get hurt, but we fully expect him to come back within the next 10 games at max, hopefully. But I'm very excited to see how this pitching goes. I hope Blake Snell turns around. We really need Blake Snell to turn around. His baseball savant numbers aren't that bad. His ERA is just awful, especially on the road, and his home start wasn't exactly encouraging either. But we can only hope that, we got to ride with these guys no matter what. The trade deadline's passed. We got to ride with these guys, and we just got to see what happens.
Yeah, you brought up his last start. Me and Ryan were at that game, and it was pretty clear, he would just get into ruts where it was 0-2. There's 4 straight balls. Or he'd start to count 3-0, and it was just dude, you got to stop walking, guys. And I showed up 10 or 15 minutes late, and it was still the top of the first. I didn't even see a run yet, and I went, and when I ended up meeting up 15 minutes into the game, there were guys on base, and then you saw the home run right after that. I didn't even miss a run. It just, his outings take so long, and he throws so many pitches. And we've definitely talked about it quite a few times on the show, and Blake Snell has talked about it as well. You got to put the change up on timeout. Chase, who's not on today, was a very big advocate of that. And then the very next outing, Snell came out, stopped throwing his changeup, and was way more effective. Because it seems like so often he's not generating swings and misses, and so many of those balls are they're non-competitive pitches where they're in the dirt, and he just falls behind in the count. Or he's ahead in the count and loses that advantage. And it's just oh, yeah, I'm not going to swing at something that's clearly going to be in the dirt. The curveball has been really good, I think. And his fastball, while he doesn't throw his fastball as much as a lot of other pitches, I still like his fastball. I think it's all right. Snell has a 9 ERA in day games. Oh, my gosh. That's terrifying. But he's a guy, if you see him in the playoffs, he could very well come out there and throw 7 shutout innings. That dude, he has that type of stuff. Am I expecting that from him right now? No, but there's a very good chance that he comes around as the season goes on. So Padres are definitely banking a lot on Blake Snell, but that was always going to be the case. That would have never changed at the trade deadline. He was always going to be in that playoff rotation. I know that frustrates some people, but I definitely think that's the case. Let's see what else we got. Ryan, anything else you want to address about this team before we kind of start getting into some questions that people have here?
Just on the Blake Snell note, I mean, you heard me when we were there. It was oh boy, it's 0-2. How are we going to work this full? How is this going to go? And I'm no pitching coach. I don't know anything about pitching at any level higher than high school. I wasn't even that good at that. But it just feels man, your stuff is so good. If you just went after them, there'd be more balls in play, maybe fewer strikeouts, but they're not going to hit it that hard most of the time until you get down to 0-3-2, and those kind of counts. But overall, the Giants all year long have won with a bunch of nobodies. Every night they win, and they have no one on that roster that genuinely strikes fear into my heart. Buster Posey's 47 years old, Chris Bryant's been bad for 2 months, and Brandon Crawford thinks it's 2010. They're not that good, yet they keep winning. And I say that because the Padres can easily win every single night. They really can. I'm not expecting them to win 50 in a row. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is every night that they take the field, they can win. They have a better roster than the team they were playing almost every single time they take the field. And what the Giants have shown is it doesn't even matter if you have a more talented roster because they continue to win. Am I perfectly pleased with the deadline? Did all my dreams come true? No. Do I still think this team is good enough to win every time they take the field? Yes. And as long as it stays there, it's hard to complain. Just stop, get some consistency, get rolling, get hot, get in the playoffs on a hot streak, and we're in a good spot.
Yeah, I think a question I have for the chat and you too as well. You guys can answer, just briefly after I say what I gotta say. Doesn't it not feel like the Padres just absolutely played down or up to their competition? Like they're losing to teams like the Rockies. Earlier in the year, I remember Chase said we were going to get swept by the Brewers, and Matt and I were like, "What? No!" And obviously now we know the Brewers are a legit team. Like they're going to be one of the dark horses in the playoffs that can definitely make the World Series because, as we know, as we saw in 2019 with the Nationals, and many years earlier, pitching is what can win. And Brandon Woodruff and Corbin Burns are two of the guys. And you have Josh Hader in the bullpen as well. That team is definitely one like a force to be reckoned with. But just in terms of the Padres, they played down or up to their competition. If you look at their winning streaks, that 9-game win streak was against some pretty good teams at the time, at least. Swept the Reds, swept the Dodgers. They've handled the Dodgers this year easily. I'm sure when we see them play the Giants, they're going to go on some absurd win streak. Like, the Padres have won 14 of their last 18, and like 7 or 8 of those are going to be against the Giants, who, like Ryan said, there is nobody on that team that I am scared of. None. You see Kevin Gausman, he's been getting kind of lit up lately. Yesterday in the first inning, I think the Astros put up 2 or 3. I don't know how the rest of his outing went, but if you look at his most recent outings, they're not exactly inspiring. Desclafani, I've said it before. I think I've said it on here. If we see Desclafani, we're going to rock Desclafani. We will absolutely destroy Anthony Desclafani. Johnny Cueto, Tatis already hit like a 5,000-foot bomb off Johnny Cueto. So nothing to be scared of that roster. Obviously, that team is just more like we're a dark horse. We want to show everyone that we're for real. And the Giants, I go back on their years that they won the World Series. They've never exactly had like crazy guys on their roster. You obviously Mad Bum. You look at that pitching staff: Mad Bum, Matt Cain at one point, Tim Lincecum. But in terms of hitters, obviously Buster Posey was a superstar. But it's not like any of those other guys could rake. Pablo Sandoval. I mean, it just shows that all you need is a really good pitching staff and just guys that want to compete, guys that want to be out there. And in terms of the Padres, they need to start playing. They need to start playing the way we know they can play because they need to start showing like just because the Dodgers got these guys, we can compete with them. Come August 24th through the 26th, I think the Padres are going to show like we don't care who you got. This team. If there's a team that I want going up against the Dodgers, it's these guys because they're hungry. I feel like they're hungry.
One guy who I think never, ever plays down, and I'm sure there are others, and I don't mean to call out everyone else, but one guy who never plays down in the competition is Tatis. And you look at it last night, they're down 4-0. Was it the smartest move to try and take third there? I mean, in hindsight, obviously not. He got hurt, and that's the worst case scenario. But that's how he plays. What makes Tatis so special is the same thing that will injure him. And I don't want him to change. I love Tatis because he goes for third in that situation. And if he's out for a week and a half with a bum shoulder because of it, that sucks. That's brutal. But it's way more fun than just watching him stand on second. And if the next hitter grounds into a double play, they roll over and they lose the game anyways. Whereas if he's safe there, boom, that crowd has energy. Let's go. RBI, sac fly. You're only down 3 now. Here we go. Now we roll. And it didn't work, but that's how he plays. And I always respect for Tatis for just doesn't matter to score. That dude is balling out and he's trying to take the extra base and he's always looking for something exciting and game changing. And that's how he rolls.
That's
I
our
love that you bring
MVP.
that up. Go ahead.
No, that's our MVP. That's all I gotta say. That's our MVP.
Yeah, and there's a reason why the Padres have come back in so many situations. And who's usually leading that charge? Fernando Tatis. The game against the Nationals, how did that inning start? Oh, Fernando hit a nuke into left field into the second deck. And it was like, oh, okay, let's wake up. And then you see, obviously, that one might have been a little bit different because Daniel Camarena did hit a grand slam. But we've seen them come back from these large deficits. And like you said, Ryan, there's a chance where if he's safe at third, he scores, you see a couple knocks, and all of a sudden it's 4-3. And that game might look a lot different. Like we've seen that happen so many times this year. This team is definitely built to come back in games. Like they have the largest run differential past the 7th inning. And I saw someone commenting earlier, like, even if you have the great bullpen starting out the game 8-0, like, it doesn't help. It happens to every pitcher. Not every pitcher. There's some ace guys that really don't get rocked, but you can't really I don't know. You can't be super frustrated with Ryan Weathers, in my opinion, because he hasn't done that this year. Like, that's something that's not going to happen that often. But I think that's a great point. Tatis is the guy who sparks the offense, and I would not want him to change either. So I really like that you bring that up. Did have one comment a while back when I said that we'd start answering some questions. So Larry Rothschild, definitely ups and downs so far in San Diego. But Ryan, me and you were talking about a while back, and you brought up a guy that really vouches for him. Do you want to get into that a little bit?
Yeah, CC Sabathia loves him. I think it's easy to love your pitching coach when you're a Hall of Famer. So you got to take that with a grain of salt. But I listen to CC Sabathia's podcast. I think he does a phenomenal job with Ryan Rocco on R2C2, and CC vouches for him. He loves Larry. With that said, look, I don't know what Larry's teaching these guys. I haven't read any stories. I don't know. So, do I hate Larry Rothschild? No. Does Larry Rothschild walk out to the mound and I go, oh, we're good. Larry's going to say the right thing. We're chilling. Everything's good. No. But I also, I don't know what the pitching coach actually does. I have no idea. I know that Sonny Gray couldn't stand him, but I don't know that he's telling these pitchers the same thing he told Sonny Gray. I don't know. So it's kind of hard for me to say that I hate Larry Rothschild and easily blame him. Did I have more trust in Darren Balsley? Yeah, but I also think that's because I grew up with every time Darren Balsley went to the mound, Dick Enberger, Mark Grant talked about how great Darren Balsley was and how much the pitchers loved him. So in my brain, it was instilled in me that everyone loves Darren Balsley. Darren Balsley was the pitching coach since 2003? I was 3 years old in 2003. So Darren Balsley's all I ever knew. Yeah, I liked him. I don't really have a strong feeling either way about Larry Rothschild. He doesn't instill a ton of confidence in me, but I also don't think Ryan Weathers giving up 8 is because of Larry Rothschild. Coaching staff's only as good as their players.
I completely agree. You brought up how you don't think, everything falls on him. It absolutely doesn't, especially with guys like Blake Snell and Yu Darvish. You can't blame Larry Rothschild for that, especially because these guys have been there before. These guys know what they're doing. They've had a long major league career, so I don't think anything had to be changed, whether it's the amount of pitches, the amount of times this dude. We all know Larry Rothschild loves that slider. That dude is in love with sliders, obviously, as we can see. So maybe it's that, pitch calling or how often he wants these guys to throw their pitches. But in terms of, mechanical issues or anything like that, unless it's a young guy I guess Ryan Weathers or, I don't know, any young guy that's in the rotation that's struggling, then maybe you can say, oh, it's Larry Rothschild's fault. But, like I said, Yu Darvish, Blake Snell, Joe Musgrove, Chris Paddock, they've all been there before. They've all had experience in the big leagues. They came up as one of the better pitchers in the organization. So obviously Chris Paddock was a top 10 prospect. Blake Snell was a Cy Young Award winner. Yu Darvish has been one of the best pitchers in the league for a little while. Joe Musgrove, very, very slept on season last year. He comes in with us, throws San Diego's first no-hitter. So obviously they all got the stuff. Do we all like Balsley a little more? Yeah, of course. But hard to put it on one guy.
Especially with such a small sample size. We haven't even finished a full season yet with Larry. And right now the Padres team ERA is 4th in the league. Maybe not after last night, but it was 4th in the league before last night. But I see some people saying maybe Larry should get fired. And I've definitely seen this for the last couple months. I am not an advocate of firing any coaches in the middle of the season. That is not going to bring anything positive to the team. I think the two areas where people have been the most concerned about the pitching staff and about Larry Rothschild has been with injuries and has been with pitchers getting pulled early on. One thing about the pitchers getting pulled early on, that's not necessarily him. And that's not necessarily Tingler either. That can be something that Preller has tried to do and something that he has advocated for them doing. Because in baseball, the GMs are typically calling the shots. They're the guys setting the lineup a lot of times. So we don't know if that's Tingler, his hands on it, or if that's Preller, or if that's Rothschild. So just going out and only blaming him for that kind of stuff, it seems a little bit far-fetched to me. Has there been times where the pitching staff has been a little bit frustrating? Absolutely. There's been some times where Blake Snell has been pulled in the 4th inning, and we were like, "What is going on?" But that's everything, and that's what happens when you play 162 games in a baseball season. Like, there's going to be times where there's going to be questionable moves. But looking at it, what about Chris Paddock? Because last season, Chris Paddock couldn't throw a curveball. This year, his curveball might be his best pitch. Like, yes, when he elevates the fastball, that is nasty, but the curveball has been, the pitch that has been great. Now his changeup, that's what's wrong. So there's been improvements in Chris Paddock's game. Yes, he's been inconsistent. Yes, he's struggled a little bit, but there's definitely been improvements, and that's something that maybe you say, hey, Larry could have had a huge part in his development of his curveball. So I have not heard one of the pitchers say anything bad about Larry up to this point. So I think you just got to wait. You got to see how it plays out. And we'll see, what happens with Larry Rothschild. If they struggle and there's like a ton of injuries and it's like, okay, something's up, then maybe they do make a move. But at this point, I think it's way too early to tell, way too early to start saying like, oh, we need to fire Larry. And the same goes for Tingler. One thing that I've noticed about Tingler is, yes, have we questioned some of Tingler's moves? 100%. But what has become pretty clear is that Tingler is a really good leader. And all of the players in the locker room respect him a lot. And he goes out there and he vouches for his guys. There was the whole 3-0 Grand Slam thing with Tatis, and I think some people question that. But over this season, it's become really clear that Tingler is a great leader and that everyone respects him in that locker room. And I would say up to this point, he's been a pretty damn good manager. Definitely, there's been some questionable moves, but like I said, that could easily be Preller calling those shots. So we don't even know if that's Tingler's issue right there. So that's where I'm at on these guys. I also saw, what was the comment? Where was it? Let's see. All right, I lost it.
Quick comment on the pitching.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say, obviously, Blake Snell's been a disappointment. I think that goes without saying. I also think Musgrove's been better than I thought he'd be. So I'm not saying to cancel out, but there's some of that. Looking around the league, I thought they were going to get a starting pitcher at the deadline. I'm kind of surprised they didn't. But look around the league and which teams do you really want their starting 5 over the Padres? The Brewers, 100%. Corbin, Burns, Brandon Woodruff, Peralta, that's a nasty, nasty top 3. I'd say the Dodgers have better starting pitching right now. Post-sticky stuff, Kevin Gausman and Anthony Desclafani don't exactly terrify me. Who are the other contenders? DeGrom's out. Taijuan Walker's been brutal his last 4 or 5 starts. Stroman's good. Okay. Is that terrifying me with the Mets? Not really. Who else in the National League? Is the Padres pitching staff perfect? No, but really no pitching staff is that good right now since post-sticky stuff. The ban. Everyone has struggled. Everyone. And the Padres are in that boat. I mean, the pitching's gone down since whenever that was, mid-June when they started implementing that. And when you're watching day to day, it's so frustrating. Like, how are they giving up 4 or 5 runs? This is, Yu Darvish, whatever. But overall, when you compare it to the rest of the league, I still like the Padres staff. And I'm sure I'm disappointed that they didn't add someone yesterday or the day before. But I still think it's a strong area. And the bullpen's got stronger. The lineup's really deep. They just need some more consistency. And they win a couple here. This is a team that gets on a streak and goes. They can rattle off a 9-game winning streak right now, and we're all high about the Padres and they're going to win the World Series. They could do that tonight. They really could. And, now is the time to get it going.
Yeah, and obviously, Ryan brings up a good point. The numbers might not show that this starting rotation is easily one of the best in baseball, but the potential is absolutely there. And I think people, we didn't acquire a starter at the deadline. Ryan brought up he was surprised. I was stunned that at the deadline we didn't acquire a starting pitcher. But it's not like we haven't tried fixing the starting pitching issue for a while now. Well, last deadline we wanted to acquire Mike Clevenger. This offseason we wanted to acquire Yu Darvish, Blake Snell, Joe Musgrove. Is like, yeah, we didn't acquire one, but what else do we need? Like, we've tried so much already. Not to mention, Preller did try acquiring Max Scherzer. He brought up that whole Ken Rosenthal thing. Ken Rosenthal's a liar, but is what it is. He's tried fixing the starting rotation, but as far as what we got right now, I'm confident in it because this rotation has the potential to be, one of those headlines. Oh, the starting pitching rotation for the San Diego Padres has been the best ever since August 15th. I don't know. Because Yu Darvish showed what he can do. He's he's our ace, and I fully expect him to come back and be the ace that we know he can be. Blake Snell, former Cy Young Award winner, we brought up, maybe his numbers are a little fluky other than that Cy Young Award winning year, but he's got the stuff. He's got the team around him to be successful. So, not too concerned about Blake Snell. We brought up if he comes into the playoffs, we got to make it first. But if he comes into the playoffs and provides great innings, then all is forgiven. Joe Musgrove, through San Diego's first no-hitter, he's been absolutely fantastic. He has a really solid ERA. That slider's filthy. Had a really good outing. What was it? The first game against the Rockies. Had a really, really, really solid outing. And that's the Joe Musgrove that we know. That's the potential that he has. Chris Paddock, am I a Paddock truther? Absolutely. Is he inconsistent? Hell yeah, he is. Is he only a 4 or 5? Yes, sir. Yes to all those questions. But when I was at his last start against the A's, and other than that 3-run inning, he was fantastic. That was such a good outing, and I was so happy to see that. However, one of those outings, probably, within the next 2 or 3, we're going to see him get absolutely demolished. But that's just Chris Paddock for you. Now, in terms of that 5th starting spot, I've seen Adrian Martinez get brought up a couple times. Chase advocated for him. We might see him in the rotation some point down the line, at some point this year. We might. That's not for sure. Ryan Weathers seems locked into that 5th starting role right now, unless something happens. But fully confident his pitching staff to turn it around.
Yeah, I mean they've made many moves, like you said. They made 3 moves this offseason for 3 starters. And also AJ probably basically came out and said, hey, the starting pitching needs to do better. I'm expecting them to play better. I think they're going to perform better in the second half, which was really interesting to hear. I also see a comment, Preller should have brought back Davies. I would have liked that a lot. And we've talked about it. He's a guy that can get you to the playoffs. He might not be able to win you playoff games, but he'll get you kind of over that hump into the playoffs. I think he would have been great to add as a 5 starter. I think a lot of the reason they didn't was price tag and his salary. Like we said, the starting pitching price tags this trade deadline were really, really crazy. It was funny because we brought up Berrios, and would you like to bring Jose Berrios onto the Padres? Oh, yeah, absolutely. But then you kind of looked into the reports of, they want all of this for Jose Berrios. And we talked about it. Me and Isaac talked about it. And we were like, I think it's going to be a no from us because that's a lot that they're asking for. Turns out that's kind of what they were feeling like too. And it seemed like that was the case with Maeda as well. So makes sense how that worked out. But I want to bring up someone who me, Isaac, and Chase all think is a star in the making. Ryan, I'm going to guess that you feel the same way. Trent Grisham. Now, Trent Grisham was great early on this year. Obviously, he hit the almost walk-off grand slam against the Reds. And the last couple of months, he has really been struggling. He's only hitting 230, and he only hit 230 in June. And in July, he has hit under 200 at a 184 clip. Power numbers have been down as well. In our last video, someone commented that they feel like he might still be dealing with injury. But I just wanted to kind of get, what's your outlook on Trent Grisham? Yes, he's been struggling. He's a very tricky player. We know that. But he's a guy that can completely carry this offense. So, Ryan, how do you feel about Trent Grisham moving forward? And kind of what's your expectations for him throughout the rest of this year?
Yeah, you mentioned he's very streaky, and he's on one of his slumps right now. With that said, him at his worst, which I'd say is right now, is an elite defensive center fielder who's an 8-hitter with speed. And if Trent Grisham was supposed to be our Tatis and hitting 2 or 3 in the lineup, that'd be horrible. I'd be really concerned. Tatis had these numbers, it'd be terrible. But Trent Grisham doesn't need to be that guy in this lineup. When he gets hot and goes on one of his runs and hits 4 homers in a week, it'll be sick, and it'll be a great addition, an awesome add to the lineup. But the lineup is so deep to where if a Nola and a Grisham are struggling at 7 and 8, there's 6 guys ahead of them who are probably on base. Now, obviously, it's been a weird week, and things haven't exactly gone perfectly to plan, but over the longer stretch into the month of August, the whole month, I think when you sit down and look at it, if Grisham is bad in August and he's an 8-hitter, he's providing elite defensive outfield, center fielder with speed. If he gets on, he can steal a bag or 2. That still has value. So Trent Grisham at his worst still has value. I still believe in him. That's why he's a star. That's why Tatis is a star. Because when they're down bad, when they're struggling, they still provide some value. When Hosmer's struggling, he provides zero value. Zero. Because there's nothing defensively other than leadership, whatever. When you are such a good defender in a core position like center field, you can have a bad couple of weeks at the plate and still have a value to the team. And I think that's where I'm at with Trent Grisham right now.
I love Trent Grisham. I know he's struggling right now, and he's not exactly providing the best at bats, but he's absolutely one of our best players. He's one of the core guys on this team. We bring up core guys: Jake Cronenworth, obviously, Fernando, Manny. If you don't add Trent Grisham to that core, it's a mistake. He's a star in the making. I felt like he was a star coming into the season. Earlier in the year, we had a tweet and we had a video about how good I think we made a Trent Grisham appreciation video, kind of. How he was top 10 in WAR at one point. And that's the kind of potential that he has. Yeah, maybe he's not providing great at-bats at the plate, but he's a gold glove center fielder. He mans the outfield like he's a stud out there. Has a lot of range, doesn't exactly have the best arm, but oh well, is what it is, right? He's just, guys, he's a star. I know it's tough to see him go up there and strike out, consistently ground out, pop up, whatever it is. He doesn't have good at bat, but maybe he needs a new bat that isn't all chipped. I don't know. Maybe it's his thing. Maybe it's like his lucky bat or something. But he's going to be fine. He's going to be the kind of hitter, like Ryan mentioned. He's down 8th in the order right now, but realistically, in a week or two, we could be talking about why he should be the leadoff hitter in this lineup, and how he's been getting on base this much in the past 2 weeks, hitting this good the past 2 weeks. That's a very realistic thing for Trent Grisham. We brought up how streaky he is. Yeah, he's one of the streakiest players in our lineup. But when he's on, he's one of the top 3 bats in this lineup as well. So be patient, let it all happen. Let it all come to Trent Grisham. He's going to find his mojo. He's going to find his groove, and he's going to show why he's a part of that core that I brought up earlier.
So I brought up the averages and like how he was hitting in June and July. I do want to say one thing. In June, he only hit 230, right? He had an 877 OPS, and that included a 323 on base percentage. Even when he's slumping, he still walks 10% of the time. That's great out of an 8 hitter. If you're getting on base, so in July, I told you he's hitting 184, on base 283 clip. Now that's not good, but when you're hitting 184 and you're still almost to get on base 30% of the time, that's a good sign. So also, he walks a ton. The 2 things he's going to do consistently. He's going to play great defense, and he's going to be a guy that consistently walks. So even if he's not hitting, even if he's struggling, if he doesn't have that pop for, a month or so, he's still providing you 2 things. So even when he's, like you said, even when he's down bad, he's still providing value. And I think that's all you can ask for out of a guy like Trent Grisham. So I think that's all like the topics I had. If you guys want to start asking some questions, go ahead and we can keep going through. I think we're going to probably hop off here in like 12 minutes at 1, but ask any questions you guys have, because we'll keep going through those. But Ryan, is there any other topics that we haven't really addressed yet that you want to touch up on before people start asking their questions?
The month of August is going to be huge. The Giants and the Dodgers both play good teams. Padres have a pretty light schedule. I know they haven't played that great against a light schedule, but now's the time you got to prove it. Period. Now's the time. I believe in them. I'm proud that I care this much about a team in late July, because for most of the years I've been a Padres fan, it's kind of, I'll tune in if I got nothing else to do, but I certainly wasn't locked into every pitch of an August 15th game, and I will be now, and that's exciting. So, it's a good problem to have, but there's a long way to go still.
So what about this? What's your guys' lineup?
I saw that. I was just going to touch up on what Ryan said real quick. Very happy that we're not rolling out guys like Will Venable, Travis Jankowski. There's so many names that I was just so disappointed in back then that they were abysmal. Corey Spangenberg. Oh my God. That was probably my least favorite player, but it is what it is. Now we get to see a lineup of Fernando Tatis Jr., Manny Machado, Jake Cronenworth. So just be happy. We all know this team can still compete. At least we're not the Cubs or the Nationals. So be appreciative. Give me your fully healthy ideal lineup 1 through 8. Okay. I'll go with Adam Frazier 1, Fernando Tatis 2, That third spot's like a toss-up between Manny and Jake, but for the sake of it, I'll go with Jake 3, Machado cleanup. I'll go. This is tough. Wow, that was a really good question. Don't talk trash about my man Will Venable. Okay, so I'll go Tommy Pham for now. I'll go with him at 5. Interesting, yeah, maybe, but he gets on base a lot and he's been hitting really well, so gonna set up a couple RBI opportunities for him. I'll go Trent Grisham 6. I'm trying to think of all the positions. Right field. So Frazier, Cronenworth would all have to be at the same time. That means Myers wouldn't be in the lineup. Nola 7. Sorry guys, I'm having a tough time. What position am I missing? First?
You're missing first or second. Depends what you're kind of rocking with.
God, I gotta put Hosmer a little higher then. Damn it. Okay, I'll put Hosmer at 7 and I'll put Nola at 8.
Okay. And then Grish is at 6?
Grish is at 6, correct.
I can go through mine real quick and then Ryan, I'll get yours. I would go Pham lead off, Tatis 2nd, Frazier 3, Manny 4, Cronenworth 5. Best 5 hitter in the game right there. Damn. Then I would go Grish 6, Haas 7, Nola 8, or Caratini, either way.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would be mine.
So is Frazier and Wright in that case?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you could put, Myers / Hosmer. It kind of depends left and right in matchups.
That's why I was having a tough time. I was like, dude, who's playing where?
Oh, okay. Hosmer's on the right and Pine. Hosmer's not playing in my lineup.
Go for it.
Okay. Frazier, Tatis, Jake, Manny, Pham. Will Grisham, Nola, pitcher.
Cool. I like that too. Yeah, that was my whole thing because if you look at the lineup, Frazier gets on a lot. I like how you put him at 3, Matt. He does have a high average. The only reason I didn't put him at 3 is because his power. I think he only has 4 home runs on the year, but he does get a lot of hits, and it's a lot of RBI opportunities for him. So that's kind of the reason I put Jake there. Jake is he's not he doesn't hit massive bombs, but he always he's doing his thing out there. So that's great. Hosmer is his parents. Wow. Yeah, I was gonna say I don't like the guy either. I really don't. I think we all know we're not Hosmer truthers whatsoever. But unfortunately, we gotta ride with the guy. Hopefully, he doesn't resent us for hating him so much. I think he knows all the fan base doesn't exactly like him. So whatever.
Hosmer played catch on the field with a kid yesterday, and it was really cute. So my Hosmer lessened because of that. I can go into a whole Hosmer rant. Listen, bro. Deadline's over. These dudes are ours. Eric Hosmer, the Padre. We roll, baby. I don't care. Let's go.
Sir.
Let's go.
Okay.
Period.
Exactly. It looks like Matt's having. There we go. We're good. We ride. Yeah, completely agree, man. We're gonna ride with this team no matter what. I'm gonna be a Hosmer truther, I guess, from now on. I don't want Haas slander. There very well may be Haas slander, but I'm gonna ride with the guy. So whatever.
I'll add. Someone just said Eric Hosmer 2021 World Series MVP. Imagine if that happened.
I'll buy a Hosmer jersey.
Same base would be in shambles at that point.
It's the same deal with Snell and anyone. If I literally do not care if Snell gives up 20 runs for the rest of his starts in 2021, if in the playoffs he goes out and shoves. That's how it works. You have to be good enough to get to the playoffs, but then as soon as you're there, I don't care about any of your stats all year long if you dominate. Craig Stammen started Game 3 of the Wild Card Series last year, and my entire perception of his horrible 2020 season, boom, done. He threw 1 2/3 innings of shutout ball. Craig Stammen truther, baby. Let's roll.
Completely agree. Guys, if Hosmer is the World Series MVP, and what sucks is most likely he'll be gone after the year or the year after, I will buy an Eric Hosmer jersey. I'm serious. Or Blake Snell. If Blake Snell does the same thing, I'll buy a Blake Snell jersey.
I still own the Blake Snell 24 jersey, by the way.
Dude, people are always like, give Will back number 4. He needs it. But I'll give you my Hosmer jersey if that happens. Hey, I won't have to buy it. But thanks, dude. I'd appreciate that. Where we got Snell for the playoffs, stick with him. What do you guys think of that?
I'm running him out there. That's for sure. I mean, not in the wild card game, but in a 5-game, 7-game series, Blake Snell gets the ball. If I'm the manager, 100%. 100%. You got to give him that opportunity. Mm-hmm. That's Blake Snell. I know he's been terrible, but that's Blake Snell. That's a former Cy Young Award winner. That's the dude that everyone in America, up to the president of the United States, was tweeting about because he was pulled in Game 6. Everyone. Mm-hmm. That's Blake Snell.
Right.
You got to let him roll.
Absolutely. Matt, what do you think?
So, if you guys don't know, my best friend is a Dodgers fan, and we were talking about the moves and stuff, and of course there was a lot of shit going on between the Scherzer deal. However, when it all ended, we were talking about Blake Snell, and he didn't realize like Snell's been struggling this. He basically told me, "Look, I don't really care how he's looked this year. He's a Dodger killer, and he terrifies me." So, like you guys are saying, if he goes in playoffs and he goes and throws 7 shutout innings, we're going to be pumped. It's not like we don't root for these guys. It's not like we're not like Eric Hosmer's up and we're like, oh, I hope Haas strikes out. Of course not. We want Haas to go up there and hit a home run every time. The last game when he hit that 2-run shot, I was freaking out. I was so excited. You know, like we want these guys to succeed. And Snell's a prime example of that. If he goes out there in the playoffs and he balls out, I mean, San Diego is going to freak out. Snell's also an easy guy to root for. Like he's just a good dude. Like you could tell that. We've been really frustrated with him this year, but that's going to be anyone that's not producing. That's just how sports are.
The Hosmer test is going to be cracking up. I saw this comment right here. Brisk, I was at that game, and I remember my dad wanted to go to the bathroom, and I go, wait, Dad, Hosmer's up. So my dad's a Hosmer truther. And I go, Haas is up. And my dad goes, oh, Haas is up? Cool, that means I can go because he's just going to ground out. I was like, oh, my dad said that. The Hosmer truther said that. Will Tatis need a surgery to fully recover from his shoulder woes? Yeah, most definitely. In the offseason, though, I don't think it'll happen during the season.
That's another thing about Tatis, man. Dude's been playing on a 75% shoulder the whole year, and he's going to win an MVP if he can play the rest of the year. I mean, he gets the surgery, and everything I've read is that there's no long-term risk of keeping the play. You just can't play every day, as he's shown. So you get that surgery, and hopefully November after they win the World Series, and comes back fully healthy for 2022. I mean, dude's going to be 23 years old with a 100% shoulder after an MVP caliber season at 22. I mean, it's unbelievable. He's only getting better. That's what's really crazy is he's only getting better. So exciting times.
You were bringing that up. One thing I was talking about the other day is Fernando Tatis is a guy that he's on pace to win MVP this year, right? I think we all agree with that. And he has a glaring weakness in his game. And it's basically that he falls for sliders that fall out side of the plate. That's a lot. If he improves that, he is just going to get better, like you're saying, Ryan. So it's super exciting. He's doing all this with playing 75%. You know, I think that's what we've kind of said, like around that. Not fully healthy. You know, we've seen multiple times. We saw him earlier this year. He didn't come out, but it was on a ground ball where he laid out and you could see him like wince in pain on his shoulder. He's banged up, and he is on pace to win the MVP. He is a very, very special player. I think this sums it up right here. Tatis can be a 50-50 guy. I think you'll see him have a 40-40 season. It's probably not going to be this year, but he's probably going to go 40-30 this year. It's exciting stuff. I mean, exactly. If he learns to recognize slider spin, no one's going to stop him. That is absolutely true. Also, when they hang a slider, he's capitalized it on in the past. So he's just going to keep getting better. He's a very young player, and if he can reduce his chase rate on those sliders, you're going to see him get a lot better as this goes on. Anything else we want to go over, guys? I think it's about 1:00, so we'll wrap up right now. But anything else you guys want to add before we take off?
I said something very similar earlier, but I'm just very grateful that I still care this much about the team July 31st. I've been a diehard Padres fan for the last 15 years since I was 6 years old, but games where I stopped watching. Not that I stopped watching. I still went to games, but I wasn't locked into every pitch by the end of July because it didn't matter. It didn't matter. And I cared about my prospects more than I cared about my big leaguers. And it is way more fun now. And it's painful when they lose. Like, I'm still pissed off about yesterday, but I'd rather be pissed off than have no emotion at all. That's all I got.
Yeah. Guys, like, I'll bring it up right now. There's not a single damn team in baseball that I'd ride with over the Padres. And I've been a diehard, I'm a diehard San Diego sports fan. I still love, I know they're not in San Diego no more. I still love the Chargers, but my passion for the Padres is absolutely, it's crazy. I love these guys. I want them to go out there. I want them to bring San Diego their World Series. And like I said, there's not a single team I'd ride with. Obviously, I hope you guys all feel the same. I know you guys all feel the same, but this is the most fun team in baseball. I've never had so much fun watching a team like this, watching the Padres, watching any baseball team. This is, it's so much fun. And I think this team's going to start showing why the hype is real, why the hype ever since last season is real, why we can go into a 7-5 game series with the Dodgers and we can take them. Most definitely. I'll take this team over the Dodgers. I know they got Max Scherzer, Trey Turner, whatever. I'll tell you what, I'll take a trio of Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis, and Jake Cronenworth over Toon Gifts from AM/PM, Justin Turner, Corey Seager, and and Trey Turner. I'll take our three guys over them any day of the week. Are they maybe a little better in the outfield with Mookie and Belly? Well, Belly's batting maybe under 200 and he's past like 70 at bats. Yeah, like Ryan said, he sucks. And I'll admit, I used to like Bellinger, but does he suck right now? Yes. So maybe Grisham has a little bit of an advantage. Mookie, great, whatever. I don't care. Guys, I'm riding with this team. I hope you guys are too. Ride or die with these Padres. Friar Faithful. Let's go.
Absolutely. Also saw one last comment from one of our longtime listeners. Hosmer right now in July is hitting 353 with a 423 on base and a 500 slugging. So hopefully he keeps that up. He has been balling out. That's something we are rooting for. We want to see all these guys succeed. So if you have a guy that has, he's been one of the most criticized players in the whole sport this year. If you have him start balling out and get hot at the end of the year, you have a very, very complete lineup. So like you said, Isaac and Ryan, this team can hang with anyone. Yes, there's some questions about the starters, but this team is going to rely on the bullpen in the playoffs. And they're going to rely on hitting bombs and getting on base. And that's what they do best. Those are the three parts of the game that is the strongest. And that's what they're going to capitalize in the playoffs. So this is a team that's built for the playoffs. Yes, they don't have that crazy starting depth. But come playoff time, you don't need starting depth as much as some people kind of feel. And that bullpen is going to be a lot more important. So, we talked about it. Maybe the White Sox have a better bullpen, but they're 1, 2, or 3. They're one of the top bullpens in the league. And they have the best bullpen ERA at this point. So, I'm really excited about this team, and these playoffs are going to be awesome. Last year we saw a one of the most special sports moments I've seen. You're down like that, all of baseball social media is calling the Padres the Fraudres, and then you see Tatis hit a 3-run shot and Manny hit the one right back after that. That was one of the most epic moments I've seen watching sports. Like up there with the Auburn return, kick return touchdown, the Brady Super Bowl comeback. Like that was a moment like that. And maybe it wasn't in a championship game. This team can turn it on at any moment. So it's going to be really exciting. And I would not be, feeling bad about the trade deadline, because at the end of the day, they got better. Yeah, the Giants got KB, the Dodgers got better too, but the Padres also got better. And up to this point, when those teams have played, head to head, the Padres have been the better team out of those three. So I'm rocking with the Padres, and it's going to be a really fun season. And I think everyone should be pumped about this team. Not this year. Like this is also the first year of like, okay, they're trying to win. Next year has always been like that World Series time. So it's going to get better in the next couple years. So it's exciting stuff. You got two superstars in Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis. So they have a long time that the Padres are going to be contending for a World Series. So that's kind of going to do it for today, but want to thank everyone for hopping on. This was really fun. And Ryan, thanks again for coming on, man. This was super exciting. Really fun to talk about this trade stuff and just, the outlook of this team moving forward. But that is going to do it. Thanks for everyone for joining, and we'll talk to you guys really soon.